the constitutional amendment that said there could only be 20 executive departments. 20. So what has happened since then? Well, we couldn't create any more departments, but the law didn't say anything about creating councils, advisory panels, working groups, facilities, offices, task force, institutes, boards, and committees. So, what do we now have? The Department of Health, only one department in compliance with the law. However, there are 87 other organizations that have been added to the Department of Health. 46 councils, 6 committees, 17 boards, 6 institutes, 2 task forces, 5 facilities. It's time to organize the government, make it professional, make it efficient, make it effective. To undergo a comprehensive review, let's eliminate, transfer, and consolidate the funds. I propose setting up SAGE, a Spending and Government Efficiency Commission. It would be styled like a Berger Commission, where the Commission would come up with a reorganization report that is submitted to the legislature, and the legislature has 30 days to reject it, otherwise it's passed. The charge to the Commission would be operational improvements, metrics and targets, a reorganization plan due in 6 months, and it would consist of private sector experts who could come in and advise us on how to do it and incorporate members of the legislature. We need to transform our budget. We have to start with an emergency financial plan to stabilize our finances. We need to hold the line, and we need to institute a wage freeze in the state of New York. We need to hold the line on taxes. We need a state spending cap, and we need to close this $10 billion gap without any borrowing. We need to transform the budget process that we use in the state. The legislature is very familiar with the budget process. And we need to transform this process from partisan political theater, which is what it is today, to productive debate and compromise. Right now, the budget process is like ships passing in the night. Hold on a second. Bring those ships back. I think I recognized someone. Is that? Zoom in on that man on that battleship. Yes, it is. Senate Majority Leader Dean Skelos. And look, it's Commander Sheldon Silver. Oh, and there I am. And here are the special interest groups within. You notice, Dean, how all the missiles from the special interest groups went into my battleship. I would humbly suggest, as the new governor, that maybe, just maybe, we try doing it a different way this year. What do you say? We need to try a different approach. And think of it this way. There are basically 3 flashpoints when it comes to the budget. It's the education funding, Medicaid, and state and local mandates. We want to try a new approach. Let's start with the Medicaid program. The state of Wisconsin actually used an interesting model. The governor had announced across-the-board cuts on the Medicaid program. The industry said that they couldn't live with the cuts. And what Wisconsin did was basically brought everyone in. It was a hybrid alternative dispute resolution meets binding arbitration process. And it actually worked fairly well in Wisconsin. The industry came in, they worked with the government, they accepted the budget target, and then redesigned the program to meet those targets. Remember, this is not going to be a budget cutting or trimming exercise. We need to redesign the Medicaid program. I can also tell you this. As the Attorney General, I audited the Medicaid program for 4 years. Even without this budget problem, the Medicaid program needs a desperate overhaul. It is dysfunctional on many, many levels. So this process has to be done anyway. Our suggestion is to take a crisis management approach and put together a Medicaid redesign team. The Medicaid redesign team will start on January 7th. It will commit to reinventing in time for the April 1st deadline. It will assume the governor's budget target for the Medicaid cut. And the exercise will be to find alternative ways to reach that cut. If we institute a cut in the normal budget process, it's basically through reducing the reimbursement rate. Let's see if we can't actually find efficiencies in the program so we actually provide a better service for less money. The committee will include legislative, executive, and the stakeholders. Dennis Rivera from SEIU, George Gresham from 1199, Mike Dowling from LIJ, Ken Rasky, Dan Sisto, members of the legislature have agreed to participate in this process. We also have Jason Helgerson, who's the former Medicaid director who did this in Wisconsin, who's responsible for designing the exercise. We have seduced him to come join us in the state of New York, which was not a difficult sell, obviously. And Jim Introne, who is a great veteran of state government and has done extraordinary work in health care. We've asked to come back. They're with us today. Let's welcome Jason and Jim. Thank you very much. Welcome aboard, and welcome back, Jim. We'll use the same approach when it comes to mandate relief. Putting together a group that will start January 7th and will commit to have actions by the April 1 deadline and will propose eliminating any unnecessary state mandates. Again, we'll include all our partners, legislative, executive, and stakeholders, labor groups, and that group will be run by Larry Schwartz, who's now senior advisor to me, but many of you worked with him when he was secretary to Governor Patterson. He's done extraordinary work, and he'll be excellent heading up this group. Thank you very much, Larry Schwartz. When it comes to education funding, as I mentioned earlier, we're number 1 in spending, we're number 34 in terms of results. That has to change. The current education funding goes out by formula grants, meaning there are no performance incentives in the grant process. A school district gets their numerical formula, and that's what they're going to get. Whether they do a good job, a bad job, it doesn't matter. They get the same level of funding every year. The federal government is actually more innovative in this area. They're doing it now in the area of education, where they run competitions. And, for example, when they fund the state government, if the state government wants to qualify for the federal money, they have to win the competition. We know in New York how effective those competitions were in making the state government actually move and pass a piece of legislation authorizing charter schools so we could qualify for the race to the top money. Competition works. When I was in the federal government 10 years ago, we moved from block grants to competitive grants. Everything was performance grants. Because when you just give people cash with no results, you take the incentives out of the system. Our suggestion is, when it comes to education, have 2 competitive funds that reward performance. One is a school performance fund, which would have a $250 million competition fund for districts that increase performance in the classroom. For example, improving grades of historically underperforming children. If there is a school district that does stellar work, let them compete, let them be rewarded, and let them be emulated. We would have a second competition for administrative efficiency. a $250 million competition for